Well, I am so glad that you're here tonight. Most of you in this room know me, a few maybe not. And again, my name is Chad, and I've been in ministry for a lot of years. And I love ministry. I love what I do, love this opportunity. Just want to go ahead and just kind of tee us up tonight so that you kind of know what to expect tonight. And I have notes because my goal is to get you out of here within 60 minutes. So I'll just give you that up front. One of the things I want to make clear is some of you came because somebody invited you, you want to be aware, but you are connected to a church family here in Wichita, and you love it, and it's thriving. And I just want to make really clear that tonight isn't about, we want you to leave your church, and that's not what this is about. In fact, what we want you to be is wherever your community is, that you are plugged in, all in, serving and doing everything that you can to make the mission of your church body and that church family successful, because it's all about Jesus. So this is not an us versus them thing or anything like that, in that we just want you to be connected. And so part of what this evening is for some of you, though, you find yourself in a season where you feel this maybe a little bit in limbo. Maybe you even feel orphaned by whatever situation that you've been in. Maybe it is that you're plugged in somewhere, but you feel like one leader called it a holy discontent. There's something that you're longing for, something a little bit different, maybe even greater. And so tonight might be you get to hear something that captures your heart, captures your attention, and you're thinking, this is something that I would like to be a part of. Or one final option is for some of you, you're plugged in somewhere else, or at the end of the evening, you're going to go, yeah, this is great, maybe not for me, but that you're aware of it. Number one, so you can be praying for our effort and what we were seeking to accomplish, but then God may be bringing people in your life in the coming days and weeks where you think like, you know what, I think this person would really connect in with what they're doing, because a church plant offers something unique and something that, an already brick and mortar place can't. And so that, I just want to get that on the table. And I will tell you that the purpose of this evening, so that you know where we're going, is ultimately to give you the vision that has been compelling to us, that has been compelling to me, compelling to this initial core group, and we're seeking to take it now to the next level, to be able to give you a vision and mission that is compelling. And I will just let you know that it is something that we feel it's much more than something that could be, but it's something that must be. And so that's what I'm going to lay before you. My greatest challenge tonight, and then again, this is why I have notes that I keep looking at, is because I want to keep focused. I'm going to try not to overwhelm you with a lot. It's going to be kind of a fire hose. But basically, it's about explaining to you what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how we're going to do it. All right? And so I'm not going to answer every single question that's going to come to your mind tonight. And at the end of it, you're going to kind of have a big picture, but you're not necessarily going to have all the nuts and bolts of things. When I get into our 7 core values that came out of the team, I'm only going to touch on maybe just one per value, as far as just kind of a foundational biblical foundation of that. And I'll just let you know, it's taking everything in me to not want to jump into like all of the scriptures that deal with this thing, because again, they're compelling and they're exciting. And at the end, you're going to get the opportunity, or take the opportunity, to work through and process through. Did what I hear tonight, does that light a fire in me? Is it something that as I hear it, I think, that's the kind of community I want to be a part of. That's the kind of community that I want to help be successful and branch out and spread out in this city, and to connect other people and decide, is this something beyond just something I could be a part of, but something I must be a part of. And so I just want to start out with the foundation of this, because a lot of you know me, but some of you don't. But I compare my encounter to Jesus years ago with an encounter that I had when I was in the Navy. I was on the flight deck. I was working. We were out at sea. We were doing flight operations. And on this particular day out, we actually had a film crew that was on the ship that was going to be with us for several days. And they were getting shots for a movie. And there was a moment where we were doing flight operations, and I was coming up out of the station from under the flight deck, stepping up on the flight deck, and I was in full flight gear. I had the tinted goggles. I was looking sharp, and I'm coming up, and I look, and I see the camera crew has panned and caught right as I'm coming up. And so then I kind of walk purposefully up those ladders, get up on the deck, and then I'm just like, praying, like I am in charge, running everything. And the cameras, I could tell, like they're zooming in. I'm like, oh, this is going to look good in the movie. And about that time, an F-18 fighter jet is going on its own power, and it turns to the right. The jet blast comes and picks me up, throws me about 30 or 40 feet. I'm now tumbling down the flight deck, gears going everywhere, right? And I get up, and my goggles are sideways and everything. And my buddies are all behind the cameraman. They're all going like that, clapping, so it was an Oscar performance. So I'm pretty sure that they now use that in the safety videos of what you don't do on the flight deck. Did not make the movie. So here's the thing. I compare that to my life leading up to Christ, where I just was walking around doing my own thing, whatever I wanted to do, wherever I wanted to do it, making my own choices. I was my own master. And I was going around and trying to look better than I really was. And, putting on an image of better than I really was. And I was just pretending. And finally, God just had to knock my feet out from under me, take me down, and humble me, and get me to a point of recognizing, okay, I'm not good at running my own life. I had way too many mornings. I woke up the next morning like, oh, what did I do last night? I don't remember what I did last night. Who's this? I was just very far from God. And he got my attention. And finally, what I recognized is because I had been fascinated by Jesus, I even loved Jesus, but I just did not see myself being a Christian. I can't be a Christian. I'm not that good, or I'll become a Christian, and I'm going to mess up, and I'll be worse off than I was before. And in that moment, I've never really heard an audible voice from God, but this was as close as it would have been, and I just heard one word, and it was choose. And I saw in my mind at 2 a.m., March 17th, with a date with a 19 in front of it, two paths. And one was to continue doing life my own way and still always feeling like something is falling short, something is missing, and why do I keep doing this? Or I could just surrender and trust God, even though I wasn't exactly sure where this path led. And so I surrendered, and God completely rocked my world. He changed my life. He changed the trajectory of my life. And one of the things that happened that week was, because I had a complete path planned out, lined up, my program as far as career military, and I knew that within a few days, that plan is out the window. That as far as it depends on me, I must spend the rest of my life as God will enable me to help as many people as possible hear about this good news and hear about this hope and experience this. So all of that ties into what we're doing. Because if you're a follower of Jesus and you are moved like I am, if you're rocked like I have been for what God has done for me, what Jesus has offered me, then it becomes compelling of I want other people to experience this. You see so many examples in the New Testament where somebody's world is rocked and they go in and they share it with their village or they share it with the people in their lives. Like, let me tell you what God has done for me. And the reality is when we look at history and we look like even in American history, and we see some of the times where we talk about great revivals. Anytime that God has broken out or overseas in Ireland or other places, it's because somebody has experienced grace, like really experienced grace, and they can't help themselves. And so they begin to spread this. So many of us in this room, we've experienced this, and it's indescribable. So here's where we're going. And by the way, I'll just tell you guys right now, we tried to do something with the air conditioning in here, and it's just going to be hot and humid, and hopefully you didn't eat right before you came. So here's where we're going. Recently, I was in the book of Ruth. It's one of my favorite books of the Bible, partly because I'm kind of a romantic, and the other part is I feel like the book of Ruth, and if you haven't been in it, get in it. I feel like it captures kind of the human existence. It captures our human life, because in this, it's a story about struggle. It's a story even about despair. It's a story about, is there a God? Is he aware? Does he know? And then it's ultimately the offer in the book of a kinsman redeemer that comes and offers a life that an individual never could have dreamed of, and this new life, and it captures it. And that there is somebody that's willing to pay the price to offer us something. And what it does is I think about our circumstances, that we have a God and we have Jesus, who is our kinsman redeemer and offering us new life. But here's the thing, is that the people don't know about it. And so just within Wichita alone, so in 2012, there was a recent statistic that had come out in 2014, that approximately 49% of the city of Wichita would label itself as, or identify as, unchurched. So 49%, and of a population around 387,000 in the city of Wichita. So 49% identify themselves, not in church, but as not religious. Okay, so this doesn't even count people outside, like the Jesus-following religions. Okay, so we've got about 190,000 people right now in the city of Wichita that identify as not religious. So, as I had an opportunity to share at a church this morning, way up north in Clay Center. So, so you think about that, and imagine, when I have an office, because right now I got a home office, I have a whiteboard because I'm ADD and I got to get everything out so I can figure it all out. But something that's always at the top of my board is that we are perfectly designed to achieve the results we are currently getting. We are perfectly designed to achieve the results we are currently getting. And that applies to anything, your relationships, the marketplace, the church, but it even applies to our city. Okay? So what that means is we got a lot of great churches in Wichita. And so another thing about tonight, this isn't about bad-mouthing or talking down or we're going to do something better than everybody else. This isn't about that. But that we have a city that has a lot of established churches, and they're serving certain parts of the community and connecting with certain parts of the community. But as you can tell, this isn't a competition. There's 190,000 people at least in this city that, with the churches that are currently here, that there's a huge percentage that's just not being reached right now. So we get the opportunity to do something new, to do something fresh. In fact, as one leader has said, to reach people that no one else is reaching, you have to do things that no one else is doing. And so we've got an opportunity to do something fresh and new, because it means that you, wherever it is that you live in this city, you are surrounded by people that don't know Jesus. And if you're a follower of Jesus, if you believe in God, if you believe the Word, then you believe that there's more to this life than this life. And so that means that there are people that are going to die separated from God. And so we have an opportunity to share with them. There is what the Bible calls a kinsman redeemer, that there's God that loved them, has paid the price in full, and wants them to have life, and have life in the full. So recently I was reading Deuteronomy 30. Moses is speaking, and he's speaking on behalf of God, saying, I've set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life. Choose life so that your children may live and that you may love the Lord your God. Listen to his voice and hold fast to him, for the Lord is your life. But see, here's the thing. It's up to us to lay that before people. It's up to us to share with people what God has done in our life. Not to tell them about all of our beliefs, so beliefs are important, or all of our theology or doctrine, those things are important. But to be able to express with courage, here's what God has done in my life. And here's what God is offering you. And he's laying before you a choice, because it's not intuitional. They won't know if we don't tell them. And so what we're working to do is to work to catalyze a community that would reach even just 1%. Just 1%. Let's set a low bar. 1%, 1,900 people. 1,900 people that could be connected into community with Jesus and with one another. But even if we wanted to set the bar low, half of 1%, that's 850 people, 950 people to have their lives transformed. So that's what we're looking at. And if you think about it, and here's the exciting thing about Wichita, is that when you think about Wichita State, Friends, NetApp, Spirit, Beach, you think of the educational organizations and the marketplace. You've got Coke Industry here. We've got people from all over the globe that are connected to Wichita. And so when we take this opportunity, we reach and connect some of these people with the good news of what God has offered, this is going to go back to these individuals' home countries. And so just imagine the opportunity that we have in connecting with these individuals. Now again, I just want to be real clear that we're not criticizing other churches. I'm not. There's a lot of great churches here that are serving a lot of people, but we have an opportunity to do something new. And we have the opportunity that one of the blessings of starting something new is, it's funny, we were visiting a church this morning, and the church is like 150 years old. Okay, the building's not. They've only been in there for like 10 years. But it was funny, I was talking to the senior pastor, and one of the things they have is they have like these boxes, they're like mailboxes for the people, you know, and so they can come in, their name's on the mailbox and whatever, and I said to him, and I said, oh, you got mailbox? He says, yeah, you know, we're really trying to move to electronic and all this. He says, but we couldn't get rid of those. I mean, that could blow this church up. You know, okay, so one of the great things is we don't have to start with any history on anything like that and mailboxes that will send people into a tizzy and all. We create our baggage of 20 years from now we'll have to deal with. But right now, we can start out with things that are fresh. We don't have anything that's holding us back. We don't have any sacred programs or sacred things. We can do something that's new and something that is fresh. And so here's this opportunity that we have. And I will say that Wichita, again, think of the numbers. This city needs a wave of healthy new church plants, new churches in this community that are passionate about people, all people, and about Jesus. So the question is, what's our unique niche or our unique our strength? And the first I will say is our driving values, which you'll look at in just a second. But also, for those of you that know, for the last 2-3 years, I operated primarily as a young adult leader, and joked at where I was at because young adults was 18 to 39, and I always joked that when I was 18, 39 was like 1 foot in the grave. But hey, it was good news, But one of the cool things that we saw is we got a taste. We got a taste that somehow God was equipping us, enabling us to connect with the college and young professional. And as far as I know, there's just not a lot or many, or not sure if there's really other churches in our community right now that is doing that really well. There are some pockets here and there, but we have an opportunity to especially make that a focus. How do we connect the college and young professional? And see, the cool thing is we don't have to go into that and go, well, if you're going to go after just that group, well, first off, you're going to be broke because they don't have any money. Secondly, because they got all this debt and they're paying college loans and all that. And then secondly, so what does that mean for like the 50-year-old or the 60-year-old? But see, here's the cool thing. Is I interact with those that are older. I like to use the word seasoned, not mature. Seasoned. I run into many that are excited and thrilled when they see, the 18, the 25, the 35-year-old plugged in and excited about God, excited about their community. And they're especially excited when they get an opportunity to say, hey, I've got years of marketplace experience, faith experience, marriage experience, raising kids, did some things wrong, did some things right, and I can invest in your life. And what it does is, my wife says it's a mouthful, intergenerational interdependence. And creating an environment where we need each other. Because if we're just, we don't want to just create a bunch of small groups with a bunch of 20-year-olds because that's pooled ignorance, right? Because like when I was 20, I was a genius. Suddenly I'm not, And so, how do we make sure people that are further along down the road, and so that will be hardwired into the structure of what we're doing so that, I'll move right into, and then there's also the areas of social justice, of compassion and justice work. And one of the strengths of many of you in this room, like your generation, is like you are passionate, you want to make a difference. Like you're sick and tired of hearing about people being marginalized and seeing children marginalized. And you hear these horror stories from the foster system and these kids that are orphans, or the opportunity to serve those that have nothing. And so we want to lean into and channel that passion. So it moves into our vision. And so vision, mission, and values. So you guys are going to learn something a little bit tonight. So vision, we can go ahead and pull vision up. So vision answers the question, why do we exist? So why would we exist? And so as we're moving into the vision, mission, values, these aren't just something like we went to other websites or other churches or whatever. This came out of this initial core group. I'll talk about them at the end, out of our hearts. So they're not aspirational values. So an aspirational value is like, I really value exercise and eating well. But if you never, ever go to the Y and you're always eating like Taco Bell, okay, you say it's an aspirational value, but an actual value looks much different, okay? So the reason why I say that is because what you're going to see in this vision, mission, and values, this is actually from our heartbeat. This is what we live. And this is what we want to expand out and permeate a community. So the first is to be a catalyst for spiritual and social change makers in Christ. And I'll just tell you right now, for me, those are not buzzwords. Okay, so a catalyst, something that moves people in a direction, moves people forward, points them towards something, and helps move them in that direction. Because one of the things as we talk about this community is it is not a place where we ever want to become stagnant. Or that it's not going to be a place where many of you in this room, you're familiar of Jesus in the parable of, does a man, he has 100 sheep and he's got 99 in the pen and he loses one. What does he do? He goes into the wilderness and he finds that lost one. And so we're not going to be a community that builds like high fences and walls to protect the 99, and we're going to make it about the 99, and the one, they can maybe make their way in or they can go to hell. I mean, unfortunately, there are places that if you boil it down, it comes down to that. And that everybody, that be a catalyst for spiritual and social change makers in Christ, Jesus uses so many examples. He talks about, for example, that a light on a hill or a city on a hill can't be hidden. Now, we're Kansas, right? We know flat places. And, suddenly there's a town up ahead. What do you see? You see the lights. It can't be hidden. It's there. And so what he's saying is if you belong to me, you belong to me, I belong to you, it's inevitable. People are going to sense something about you. Something is different. Something's compelling, maybe even a little abrasive, but not in an obnoxious way. But your values of mine don't necessarily line up. And so whatever environment you're in, God has enabled you and positioned you and wired you to affect change in somebody's life and in this community and in this world. But it's all based on Jesus. Because the reality is there's a lot of NGOs and other organizations and people that are going and doing great things. But that what we do is ultimately based on Jesus to point people to Jesus. So the next thing is the mission. The mission answers the question, what do we do? And for us, it's real simple. The mission is to make fully devoted followers of Jesus. And that's just simply coming right out of Matthew 28. He's got his final moments with his core guys. And for those of us in this room, every one of us in this room, we can trace our spiritual heritage back to one of these guys, which is kind of cool if you think about it. So our spiritual forefathers are around Jesus in his final moments. And what does he say to them? I want you to go. I want you to go and make disciples of all nations, teaching them to obey everything that I've taught you. And surely I'm with you to the end of this age. And so our job is to make fully devoted followers of Jesus and to be. If we're in Colorado, it really makes sense that we need to be smoking what we're selling, right? So we don't just go out and make disciples. We need to be disciples, right? All right. So we do that. Then that answers the question of what we do. And now we're going to move into the values. And again, there's just so much that I'm not going to dive into because I just want to give you enough that you leave with a few questions, okay? So the first value is this, and this answers, who are we? Okay, there's why do we exist and what do we do? And this is who are we, which informs our attitude, our posture of how we do these things. So the first thing is all about Jesus. So our first core value is it's all about Jesus. In boldness and humility, everything we do must point to Jesus. We are nothing more than joyful beggars showing other beggars where we found food. So everything. And it's our number one value, just as a reminder that we don't do this for a building. We're not doing what we're doing for personal preference. We're not doing whatever. What we're doing, it's all. And the boldness part, notice it's not an obnoxiousness. It's not an offensive-ness. I mean, there is an offensiveness to the gospel, but we don't have to be intentionally, unnecessarily offensive. But so boldness, I am a follower of Jesus. Jesus has done this in my life, but then in humility, that everything we do is pointing to Jesus. And then the final line is just a reminder that we're no better than anyone else. We're just beggars that found food. And we're pointing other people in that way. And so I think of Paul in 1 Corinthians, who says, though I'm free and belong to no one, and Paul was a man's man. I mean, that man took beatings and shipwrecks, and he just kept on going, right? I'm free. I belong to no one, but I have made myself a slave to everyone to win as many as possible. I become all things to all people so that by all means I might save some. I do this for the sake of the gospel so that I may share in its blessings. And Paul is just such a great example of what it means. The next value is this, is radical love. Everyone needs to be loved and shown love. Everyone. If we don't love, nothing else matters. And this is so important. And this is, I will tell you, this is a core value that does set us apart from many. In fact, there's many, it sets us apart. I just know. And see, that everything be defined by our love, and that we're not judging from the outside, that people come as they are but don't stay as they are. We'll talk about that. But Jesus said very plainly, and again, Jesus, the one who was criticized for eating and drinking with sinners and hanging out with hookers and tax collectors, and he is the one that gave us then this new command. A new command I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this love, everyone will know that you're my disciple, if you love one another. The man that said these words after he washed the feet, he did for them, these guys what they would not do for themselves. So he washes the feet of the betrayer, the denier, and the cowards. And he showed them love, and he's called us that kind of love, a radical love that defies sense. And then you have Paul in Corinthians. And this is so relevant to our current age. And I've talked about how I feel like in some ways, like social media is a great thing. I use social media. And in some ways, I feel like it's been one of the greatest cancers to the body of Christ. Because what I see so much on social media is Christians bashing other Christians. I see Christians bashing other pastors, other churches, other organizations, criticizing, and my theology is better than yours, and my meme trumps your meme, whatever. It's just like all of this stuff and this ugliness that just creates tension and division. And I don't sense the love. And Paul said, Paul was like a religious genius, right? Like he knew the law, it was memorized. And he says, if I speak in tongues of men and angels, so I've got all this giftedness, but I do not have love, I am a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy, I can fathom all mysteries. I'm just so smart. I got all knowledge. If I have faith that can move mountains but do not have love, I'm nothing. And if I give all I possess to the poor, I give my body over to hardship that I may boast, but I do not have love, I gain nothing. And so radical love is imperative. The next one is this: grace and truth. We are to be full of both grace and truth. In the same breath that Jesus frees us from condemnation, he calls us to leave our life of sin and follow him. And see, there's a messiness to this. There's a tension to this. Because Jesus wasn't a little of each. He was full of both grace and truth. And so, to me, one of the best pictures from Scripture is in John 8, where they have dragged this woman out who's been caught in the act of adultery. Notice they didn't drag the dude out, but that's a whole other subject matter. So they bring this gal out. She's down there being shamed in front of everybody. And then Jesus, like, okay, fine. You're right. First one without sin. Or the one without sin, cast the first stone. Nobody does. One by one, off they go, and suddenly it's just Jesus and this gal. And it says that he stood up Says, has no one condemned you? No, Master. Well, then neither do I condemn you. Now leave your life of sin, grace, and truth. And it's the tension that all of us in this room live with, right? We all live with this tension. And that we make sure that we're living this out and pushing this forward and out in a community, that we're loving people. We don't care what you were caught in the act of. We don't care whatever your story, your background is. We don't care what you're walking in the door with, because that was me, March 20th, 1988. Like, if they'd known, if I had to pull out, hey, here's what I've done, they would have sent me right back out. But that anybody can come in. But here's the thing, like, come as you are, but God's not going to let you stay as you are. All right? The next one is this, irrational generosity. Because let's just admit it, we're by nature, we're greedy. I'm greedy. I'm selfish. Like, I like big shiny things and nice things and all that. Irrational generosity. We will maximize our resources for Jesus. May we not leave this life knowing we could have given more, done more, risked more to reach those far from God. Now, here's the important thing. It doesn't mean suddenly now we need to become homeless, or tonight you guys need to go empty your bank account into our church account, which was okay with me. Not really. Paul says this in 1 Timothy, and I love his balance. He says to Timothy, command those that are rich in this present world not to be arrogant. So don't be arrogant just because you got and somebody else doesn't got. Nor to put their hope in wealth, because it's so uncertain. Brexit. Okay. But put their hope in God, who richly provides us, very important, with everything for our enjoyment. So we have a God who's generous. He's been generous with us for our enjoyment, and He wants us to be like Him and generous with others for their enjoyment. Command them to do good, and even beyond money, to be rich in good deeds, and to be generous and willing to share. In this way, they lay up treasure for themselves as a firm foundation for the coming age, so that they may take hold of life that is truly life. So for my wife and I, we wrote the first sacrificial check towards this movement. Because we're not going to ask anybody to not do something that we're not willing to do ourselves, but that we would see our resources of intelligence and time and money and all those things as something that we can leverage for the advancement to reach that 190,000 in Wichita. And that we would leave this life. How many of you have seen Schindler's List? Okay, so about half of you. Those are the other half. Like, I don't know, it's on Netflix. Watch that movie. I'm just telling you, it's not a romantic date movie. You're not getting kisses after that, right? Because it's about World War II, and you've got Schindler, and I'm sorry, spoiler alert. So at the end of this movie, you've got this German who has leveraged his resources and his factory and all that. They got turned into a weapons factory and everything. And this is based on a true story. It never produced an actual working bullet. It's like he just could not support it, and he leveraged everything he could to save as many Jews that he could. But at the very end, total spoiler, at the very end, the war's over. Germany lost, in case you didn't know that. And he's having to flee in the middle of the night because regardless of all the good he did, in the eyes of the Allies, he is a war criminal because he owned a weapons factory. But in this moment, he's surrounded by hundreds of men, women, and children, Jewish men, women, and children, and it's the middle of the night, and he's having to flee for his life. And in that moment, he starts to have a breakdown. He pulls out a gold pen. He goes, why did I keep this? This could have been 2 more. And then he goes to his car that he's about to flee, and he goes, why did I keep this? This could have been 10 more. And these shoes, why did I keep these shoes? That could have been 4 more. Because he was using all of his resources that he could to save as many as we can. I just feel like that's such a beautiful picture. That we would begin to move, and it doesn't happen overnight, but begin to a place where we look at our life and say, when I get to the end of this life, I want to look back and say, I used the resources that God put in my hand to save as many as possible. Okay? The next is the church has left the building. And the church is not a building or an institution, it's a movement. Very important. We don't exist for ourselves, we exist for others. Jesus says in Mark 2, in Luke 19, it says that the Son of Man came to seek and save the lost. So he's our head, he's our leader, right? So he's leading the way for us. And he says, I've come to seek and save the lost. He says in Luke 19, because the Pharisees are like, hey, why are you eating with all these tax collectors and sinners and all these bad people? Why aren't you hanging out with us good religious people? And he says to them, Jesus said to them, it's not the healthy that need a doctor, but the sick. I have not come to call the righteous, but the sick. In Matthew 16, Simon Peter, Jesus is like, hey, who do you guys say I am? And Simon Peter says, you are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. And Jesus replied, blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for this was not revealed to you by flesh and blood, but by my Father in heaven. And I tell you that you are Peter, and on this rock, and he uses the Greek word for like a little rock that you could throw at your brother or sister, and it's a little rock, something you carry. And I tell you that on this rock, I will build my church. Peter is the little rock. And you build on this rock, which is like a mountain, something that cannot be moved, a huge truth. I will build my church. But in the context, the word is ecclesia. Ecclesia is movement, or even literally the called out ones. It's a movement. And the gates of Hades will not overcome it. And so it's a movement. It's not a building. It's not a place. You burn the building down. It doesn't matter because the people are the church. You, as a follower of Jesus, are the church. And we don't exist for ourselves. We exist for others. Now, I want to qualify this. Every one of us in this room, we face challenges. And there's going to be times where we need, right? We need support. We need encouragement. We maybe need financial help. We need relational help. We're having struggles with our job, or we're struggling with our health, or whatever it is. So it doesn't mean that like those needs aren't important, but that we recognize that we're part of a body, but ultimately that we're a movement. In fact, part of the way we impact other people is by how we treat each other. And that we go out of our way to love each other. That makes an impact. And that people would be brought in to this community, which moves to the next thing. Authentic community. There's just two left here. Authentic community. We were not designed to do life alone. We do life together. And we work to lead everyone into transparent, life-giving, life-transforming community. Don't you want that? I mean, isn't walking around pretending to be better than we are exhausting? We all do it. And it's exhausting. How awesome it is to be in relationship with people like they know us. Like they know us. Like they know stuff that could ruin us forever. Like it's all the junk and the ugly stuff, and they still love us. They still want to be with us. They still want to do life with us. And that we would have a community that lives that at every level of just being real and authentic. I struggle with this sin. I struggle with that sin. Man, I lost it with my spouse the other day, or I lost it with my kids or my boss, or, or like, hey, this is what's going on in my life, and that you don't face it alone. The good stuff and the bad stuff. And then to be a community that you find life-giving, like you look forward, you can't wait to be back with your people because they're your people. And that it's transforming you and helping you to grow, to become better in those areas where you struggle. And then you get to help other people where you're strong and they are weak. Hebrews says, let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds. Not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. See, Satan convinces us. He does his best to convince us that we are alone. He does his best to convince us I'm the only one that struggles with whatever it is that I struggle with. I'm the only one that's having this kind of problem. It's a lie. We're all the same. And he tries to isolate us so he can pick us off. It's like the wildebeest that gets away from the herd and suddenly it's lion's lunch, right? You have the writer in Ecclesiastes that two are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. Also, if two lie down together, they will keep warm. But how will one keep warm alone? I mean, just ask my wife. Wintertime, man. She's right there, all warm. So, sorry, squirrel. And then I love this line. Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of three strands is not quickly broken. And so in having an opportunity where people can really know you and do life with you, pour into you, you pour into them, and transform. The last one is this, incredible joy. No one should have more joy and laughter than people who have been given new hope and new life. Now, does that mean we're always happy? No, it doesn't. Because there are just going to be times where we face a difficult challenge or a struggle or a loss or something. And certainly in those times we grieve. Well, back to authentic community, we grieve together. And you don't grieve alone. But then in general that we have joy. It's just like Peter says, though you've not seen him, you love him. And even though you do not see him now, you believe in him, and you are filled with an inexpressible and glorious joy, for you are receiving the end result of your faith, the salvation of your souls. Or you've got Paul in Romans where he says, may the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him, so you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. So when it really hits us, like what, and again, this side of heaven, we're not going to fully get it, but we definitely can get a lot of being saved and knowing that we can live this life and die in peace and die with hope. And we've been equipped with a new way to live, a new way to offer forgiveness when we've been hurt or harmed, or a new way to encourage, and a new way to show love. And so we should have joy. And especially for those of you, when we get on, or you serve in whatever church that you're part of, and you're serving alongside people with a common mission, and you're seeing people's lives change, that is the greatest joy. So this is a sense of who we are as a team, and a sense of where we're going as far as the type of community that we are going to build with God's help and his leading. And this is the type of church that we're looking to launch in Wichita and are going to launch. So the next question is, that's all great. What's the plan? Like you engineers and detail people like, oh, this is great fluff. Where's the plan? So let's go to the next slide. There's so much I'm going to leave out. Here's just the 4 stages of moving forward. We're going to use construction for those of you that like you don't really use a hammer. It's okay. You'll still get it. So just the stage 1, just think of like a building. It's just the foundation work. And so starting towards the middle of May was when I started working with a core group of individuals, and it was about developing the DNA of the community, the feel of it. So what's our vision, mission, and values? So for example, the way we started this process is I asked the group to come to the next meeting prepared to throw out words and phrases that describe the type of community that they long for, the kind of community that makes their heart beat fast. I said, if it helps, pretend like 5 years from now things have really gone great and you're getting interviewed, and the interview is asking you, what makes this community unique or special that you are doing whatever it is, the great things that are happening. And what are some of the words and phrases that come out? And then we got all of those on. I think we started out with like 19, 20 values that we formed out of that. And then we boiled it down to 7. And it was mostly the team did, because I had a really hard time doing that. But so we did that together. The core launch team. So like, again, starting small, bigger. So we have the initial core team, the core leadership team. Now what the next level is, and this is where you guys that would be called to have the opportunity, what's called the core launch team. The core launch team is anywhere from 30 to 50 or more, but 30 to 50 individuals that would go, hey, this excites me. I don't know all what the future holds, but I want to be a part of this. I want to lean into this and just play some role in this. And then that's the group of people that's all in initially. Is then we move to the next phase, so the core launch team. And so the time frame for that is between now and August. The next phase is stage 2, which is kind of the framing. So we've got the foundation, now we're framing on it. So the leadership and team development. So we've identified different leadership, their gifts, their level of leadership ability and skills, their emotional intelligence, all these great things. And so that we're pouring into individuals that are going to have influence over various areas of ministry to make sure that you're developed, that you're feeling equipped and given the tools and the investment to be able to be effective because we want you to be effective. We want you to win. And so then we also begin to move into what's called preview services. And so it's where we will actually have some sort of type of special service. It gives us a feel for each other. It helps us to begin to develop a rhythm and gives people a glimpse of who we are and kind of what we feel and smell like and all that. And the time frame for that is August to October. The next is plumbing and electrical, which is a little more of the interior work. I know it sounds dumb, regular soft services. No, King James, hard. No, not really. So what that means is that we're not doing a lot of publicity in the city. We're not trying to get like everybody to come and to be a part of this. This is still the people that like you guys, and then maybe people you connect with and network with that are already part of your circle that get drawn in. And then now we're beginning to actually have regular, consistent services. I can't tell you a location right now. If you can find us, you can attend. And then in the process too, by that point, we've equipped life group leaders, people to serve and lead and pour into children and into ministry children's ministry and to worship. So the time frame of that is October to December. So now we're going, and then break for Christmas, and then we're looking for a grand opening will be in January. And that's basically, okay, at this point, we've got a rhythm, we know our surroundings, we've got a feel for who we are. The people that have become a part have been absorbing the values, the vision, the mission, the DNA, and it's becoming a part of them. And so that way, when we do the grand opening, as soon as people come in, it doesn't matter which one of you that would be part of it they run into, it's going to be the same thing. Like, you guys, like, why are you so awesome? You know, you're all so awesome. So hopefully they'll feel that way. So, and then that's where we do like promotion in the city and door hangers and other things and fun things and creative things to get people to come and be a part. Now, we started like 8 minutes late, so if you're a watcher, I'm keeping it at my 60 minutes, like I said. So, but we're almost done. So I want to give you this image on the weekend services, because especially in some established churches, sometimes there gets a debate on the purpose of the weekend service and all of that, and so I'm just going to give it to you clear up front. And several years ago, Shauna, my wife, and I, we had a pastor come, never had been out of Haiti, and he was a pastor from Haiti. He was about 40 years old. He came to visit our home, and he came with some friends that hosted. He didn't speak a word of English. My friends were fluent in Creole. And for that evening, I had checked with my friend, hey, what should I make? Like fajitas, burgers, or whatever. And he's like, you know what? He would really just love some rice and beans. Because like he's grown up his whole life in Haiti, right? So no problem, Google's my friend. So he comes over, I had gotten this recipe, make these rice and beans, and we greet each other and all that, and then we sit down to eat, and he's eating, and he is a happy Haitian, right? Because he's like horking down these rice and beans. He's so happy. And in fact, in the middle, he's like, he says to my friend that these are better than my wife's, and he like stops, like, if you come to Haiti, please don't tell my wife I said that. So there was that. So we have this great meal. He eats like 3 plates. Then the other thing is I got like 5 different kinds of Breyer's ice cream because I got a sweet tooth. And so I come out, and he's never had ice cream. And so I'm like showing him the pictures and ice cream, would you like some? And he goes, yes, please. I'm like, well, which one? He's like, all of them. So, okay, so scoop all of them, get some hot fudge. And would you like hot fudge? Yes. So I put some on. Now I sit. Now we're all eating ice cream, happy and laughing and everything. And again, he's like horking down the ice cream. And then I see him reach and grab that hot fudge, drag it back over, and just hose that ice. He like empties the jar, he like puts it down. And then he's eating like chocolate on his face, happy Haitian. So all done. We have this great experience. He gives me this big embrace. Said, I want you to come to Haiti. When you come, don't tell my wife what I said about your rice and beans, and bring me hot fudge. And he leaves. Now, here's the thing. I could have gone like, you know what? I really make great fajitas. And I do. I'm not trying to be arrogant. They're just good. Or lasagna or spaghetti. I could have made all these things. The bottom line is we all needed to eat. We all needed something nourishing, right? But because I considered my guests, we all left full and happy. And our guest, I got to introduce him to ice cream and hot fudge. And he wanted more, right? And then if the next night I wanted to have my friends over and have steak or lasagna or spaghetti or whatever, any other night of the week, every night of the week, we can do that. That's how I view the weekend service. If we're doing it right, no matter where you are on the faith spectrum, whether you've been a Christian for 50 years or you're like so far from God, but your friend bribed you, you'll meet a cute girl or something, and you come, that you're going to walk out and that you have received something that you walk out with, you've been fed. But there's this hot fudge thing, and I want more. and that they would want more of the community, more of Jesus, more of whatever's going on here. I want more of that. So does it make sense? Okay? So it's both and in reaching both. So I just wanted to get that to you up front so you're not disappointed later and leave mad. Will we dig deep? We absolutely will. But the strategy of the weekend service is to compel people then from that larger group into deeper community with you and with the people around them. And in those environments, they can dig even deeper then, get into the stake on some things that they really are trying to work through. Okay? So go ahead and show you, this is an image of, this has been the team. And the cool thing about our team, I'm not going to go through everybody's name. Praise the Lord for selfie sticks. But we've got retail. We've got a single dad. We got a stay-home mom. We've got a teacher. We've got engineers. We have a nurse, retail. We've got a software developer. We've got a college professor. It's just a great diverse mix, multilingual, multi-ethnic. I love it. I'm so happy. And so it's just been a great mix of just people with and there are people that you've known me for a while, and you're like, hey, I would have liked to have been on that team. Why wasn't I invited? So here's the deal. A lot of it just had to do with prayer. Like, God, you're leading my wife and I towards this. We're a little bit, this kind of terrifies us, and so we need people to start us out at this level. Who would you lead us to? And it was a prayer of processing and conversation and prayer, and led to this. Well, where do you fit in? Well, again, for those of you that you're here tonight, you got a church home. If any of this excited you, but you still have your church home, great. Take this. Be all in with your church community and make a difference. God's put you there. Be all in, 100%. But for some of you, you just feel like, you know what? When I listen to a community like this, that is something I want to be a part of. Or it's something that's missing in my life. Or something, when I think about the people in my life, the circle around me, they would want to be a part of that. Or if we had something like that to offer, they would be a part of that. So if you find yourself unchurched, de-churched, wholly discontent, if these values, this vision and mission, this excites you, it fits in your passions. So here's simple. We've got, great, we've got the cards. So you'll actually get 2 cards. One actually has the value, the vision, mission, and values that you just saw. We were going to hand those out ahead of time. I shouldn't have told you. You never would have known. But this way you get to go home with the vision, mission, values. And then the other card is a chance for you to put down your name and to put down just some simple information. And there are 3 options for you on the card where ultimately you can go, yeah, you know what? I don't know. It's still a lot of unanswered questions, but I want to be part of this. The next one is I'm interested in learning more. And what that will tell me, just so you've got some language to it, is that you're seriously interested, but you're kind of wanting to see how this thing pans out before you jump into something new. I'd encourage you, if you're there, just go ahead and check the first box. Or the last one is I'll commit to praying for this church. And here's the thing I want to tell you. Like, don't feel bad if you walk out and you don't check that box or haven't checked a box. Like, don't feel, because I only want you to check it if you're actually going to do it, right? So that means that you're going to put it on your mirror, or on your rearview mirror, or something at home or whatever, or on your calendar or an app, that you'll be praying for the success of this movement, okay? And then if you have any other comments or questions, you can write those on the bottom of the card. So that's your first step, is the card. Be praying for us. And then for those of you that whether you're going to be a part of us, be a part of this movement, because the reality is we're all connected if we're a follower of Jesus. But if you're going to be a part of this effort, that whether you're going to be part of this or your home church, be investing in people in your life. Invest in their lives. And then invite them into community. You got a lot of people around you doing life alone. So invest and invite. And then one of the last things is to a little bit of homework, since it's summertime and you should have homework. Again, whether or not you join with us or not, inevitably, I want to encourage you to watch a series that came out about 1.5 years ago. You can just Google Brand New Series or go to brandnewseries.org. It's a series that came out of North Point from a pastor that I highly respect, but I feel like it will It'll equip you with a deeper level of understanding of the type of movement that we're talking about. That we're not trying to start Temple Model 2.0, but that Jesus came to start something brand new, and we're trying to leverage that and lean into that, okay? And so if right now you don't have anything that you're reading or whatever, this would be a great thing, and it's going to force you to dig in like, I don't know about that, and you're going to dig in and wrestle with some things. But I encourage you, and there's even a website, brandnewseries.org. Then the big picture, those are your first steps, and then ultimately that you would connect into the community, that you commit yourself to giving of your time and your talent and your treasure. I mean, those 3 T's have been around the church world for a long time, but it's just encompassing of, we're going to need people that invest in different areas of ministry, and we'll want you to invest in your giftedness. Like if you really cannot stand toddlers, we don't want you working with kids, okay? Seriously, all right? Like, and if you like you are so tone deaf, we're not going to put you on the worship team, okay? So it's just, we want you to serve in that area that like, you know what, I enjoy this. This is an area I like, okay? And we won't just assume just because you do it for a living. Like there's some of you, some people are teachers. That doesn't, in fact, they probably don't want to work with kids, and that's okay. We want it to be something like, this is what I get to do for fun and get to enjoy. And that you would then and ultimately invest in your talents and your skill sets and then your treasure. Again, Sean and I started out, we've been already giving faithfully to this. I mean, we're ultimately giving to God, but what we're seeking to do is to invest in what God wants to do. And it's a community, and that's what you're doing when you're giving. You're saying, God, you're Lord of my finances here, but I'm going to be wise about it. And here's the thing, if you don't give to us, fine, give somewhere. Because this is about you and God and letting God know that you're not trusting in your wealth, you're trusting in Him. And then serving your gifting and then ultimately grow. So I will warn you, and no good salesman would ever do this, but I'm not trying to sell you on something. I'm just going to warn you right now, if you step into this, you're going to put a target on your back. The enemy does not want any church plant to succeed. He doesn't want any Christian to succeed. And when you go to try and step into something a little bit bigger than yourself, just be prepared. Your things are going to come out of left field that you didn't expect, where the enemy is going to try and derail you. Or, on the other side, sometimes what God is wanting to do, He's wanting to stretch you. He's wanting to stretch your faith and stretch your determination. So sometimes it's the enemy that's trying to derail you and destroy you, and sometimes it's God who's trying to stretch you and actually grow you. But just be prepared. I'm just telling you, December, when it gets at like dark at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and the sun doesn't come up till noon, I mean, it's just, there's going to be little challenges that come along the way, but we'll be in it together. Because the other side of that is, again, there's incredible joy when you work alongside people you love. And if any of you have ever been on like a short-term missions trip or something like that, you come back with a connection with these people around you that just nobody else can understand it. You do something like this with a group of people, man, you're going to build some amazing connections with people. And 10 years from now, 5 years from now, you're going to look back and go, look what we did. Look what we got to be a part of. So the win for us ultimately will be seeing lives surrender to the lordship and leadership of Jesus, seeing people step into authentic, life-giving, life-transforming community, and that everyone that gets a part of this community, that then they step into it, that we're catalyzing them and using their gifts and skill sets and resources to make a difference in this city and this world. So that's us. So I'm going to pray. God, I thank you for the men and the women that are in this room. We are all in this room, and it goes all the way back to that group, that ragtag group of just guys that you just chose, and the women, honestly, the men and the women that followed you and were devoted to you. And now we get to live in their legacy. And Father, I pray for all of us in this room. We're all facing different challenges from within or without. And God, I pray for everyone in this room that when they leave here tonight, that they will feel your presence and peace no matter what they decide about what we're doing. But they would feel your presence and peace in their life, that you know them by name, that you care about their circumstances, and that you are trustworthy. I pray for us, for those of us that will lean into this and step into this, that God, you would do something far more than we could ask or imagine. That you would help us to do far more than we could ask or imagine. And Father, I pray all these things in the name of Jesus. Amen. Thank you for being here tonight. Some of the team members here, I'm here. If you have any questions or anything. Oh, Alexis wasn't here to yell at me.